Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we finally have a brand new gameplay trailer for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We first got our first look at it about 6 months ago, and today at the Xbox Showcase, we got our next trailer, and it looks fantastic. We weren't exactly expecting it to show up today, but we are not surprised that it did show up at the Xbox Showcase. And within this trailer, there's a bunch of stuff that we've already seen from the previous trailer, but there is a bunch of brand new stuff, and we're going to break it all down together. But before we do that, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you as always, and the way to do that is just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button and the bell notification right on next to it. It will notify you every single time that Andreas and I upload. And if you would like to take this conversation off of YouTube and beyond that, make sure to go over to Twitter and follow us at Lunar Squadron. Also, join our Discord server. Link to that is down below in the description. Now, with all of this out of the way, Andreas, you ready to break down a brand new indie trailer?
Oh yeah, let's do this, guys. Now, the bulk of this trailer is a pretty extensive cinematic sequence in the Himalayas, but before we get into that, there is this bit of a sizzle reel here that shows us various scenes throughout the game, and I think the first one that we want to talk about here is this shot right here. Recall from the prior trailers that we have seen thus far that we know that St. Peter's Basilica and Vatican City will be in this game. We did see in the very initial teaser trailer a few maps of Vatican City, and of course there was that overnight ticket to Rome for Indiana Jones himself. And this again is just yet another data point showing us that we will be traveling to Vatican City, and this guy here who looks like he's wearing papal garb. At first we thought that he might be a pope of some sort, and so of course we looked into who was the pope in 1937 when this game takes place, and that would be Pope Pius XI. And Pope Pius, his papacy lasted until 1939, which is 2 years after this game takes place, which is when he unfortunately died of a third heart attack. But in any event, we did deduce that this is likely not Pope Pius XI, and while he looks kind of similar to him just based on his glasses and general facial features, it looks like he isn't based on that handlebar mustache. And funny enough, we looked into whether popes have facial hair, and it looks like popes have not had facial hair in the last 300 years or so. So likely not going to be Pope Pius XI here. But Nick, we did notice based on his garb that this is very likely one of his cardinals, because a lot of his cardinals wore this same exact uniform that this gentleman is wearing right here.
Yeah, that's a great catch. If you guys look up some uniforms that cardinals wear, and they still wear these to this day, but especially if you look at images from around the mid-1930s, you will see a lot of pictures of cardinals wearing pretty much this exact same robe. It is either this blue or black robe with that red sash around the middle. I mean, it's almost identical to what we're seeing here in this game, and it sounds like this guy is actually helping you, because in the trailer we get a voice line where he says, "Are you sure you want to investigate this, Indy?" And of course, we don't know for sure that's him, but it does play at the same time, and it is in some sort of Italian accent, so not hard to deduce that he is helping you. And here we see Indy actually following him through what appears to be this underground area. I am personally wondering if this is the Vatican grottos, which are located under St. Peter's Basilica. And the reason I'm wondering it is this next shot right here, where Indy does eventually pull up a map. And if you take a look at the map on the bottom right, you'll see kind of a object that looks more of like a wheel with like spokes. If you take a look at the floor plan for the Vatican grottos, it looks very similar. There's a lot of matching features here. It's not a one-for-one recreation, but if you were thinking of someone just doing a quick sketch, trying to capture the essence of what they were looking at, there are a lot of almost identical features here. And honestly, if you take a look to the thing to the left, I wouldn't be surprised if that is a floor plan of St. Peter's Basilica. If you take a look at a floor plan of that, also a lot of similar features. So I wouldn't be surprised if we are under St. Peter's Basilica here in the Vatican grottos. And Andreas, within these grottos, there are a lot of religious figures buried here, including St. Peter himself, and inevitably Pope Pius does get buried here in the Vatican grottos. Of course, that will not have occurred yet, as this game does take place in 1937, but this is a very important place within the Vatican.
Yeah, and we'll get a bit more into the other Vatican details that we have throughout this trailer. And one thing's for sure, Nick, I'm really excited that they picked this area in particular because, like you mentioned, there's so much history buried beneath St. Peter's Basilica that I think it would be remiss to make an Indiana Jones game touching on this papal area and not go digging into the catacombs and the grottos beneath St. Peter's Basilica, because there's so much interesting history in there. And on the note of Pope Pius XI, we actually did a little digging into Pope Pius to see if he had any involvements with archaeology, and it looks like he requested that the Vatican sponsor an archaeological excavation under St. Peter's Basilica, which occurred eventually after he passed away throughout the date ranges of 1940 through 1949. And these excavations ended up revealing parts of the necropolis, which date all the way back to imperial times. So very interesting stuff buried beneath St. Peter's Basilica.
As we continue throughout this trailer, we get some shots here of Sukhothai, this puzzle. We've seen this prior trailers and all of these shots. Again, looks like we're just going to be able to complete a lot of very fun and probably very frustrating puzzles throughout this game. I imagine they're not going to be very easy, and there will be a lot of people out there who are trying to research internet guides to help them get through it. And then we get one of my personal favorite shots from this trailer. It is always nice to see Marcus Brody, and here we get to see an extended look at him. He looks fantastic. The guy voice acting him, of course, the actor for Marcus Brody is no longer with us. Sounds fantastic. I just love seeing these two together again.
Yeah, and it's really nice, of course, to see Indiana Jones in his Professor Indiana Jones garb, because that, to me, has always been synonymous with Indiana Jones's personal life. And, of course, we do know that this game takes place between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, and we're expecting it to take place just after Indiana Jones does separate with Marion. And so we know that Indy, you can kind of tell based on his facial expression here, that when he is in his personal life, he's kind of rattled at this point in time, having just separated with Marion, and you imagine that he's almost running to the field and to archaeology as a place of escape from that personal turmoil.
Yeah, definitely, and that sounds like it is exactly the case from what we've heard from interviews over the past few months. And like you said, you can kind of just see it on his face. He just doesn't look like he's all there. He looks a little rattled, as you say. And then this next shot is actually pretty important. If you guys recall our previous breakdown of the last Indiana Jones and the Great Circle trailer breakdown, and it is that medallion. And Andreas, we believe that this is the medallion that Locust was actually wearing that bears that cross that we did a bunch of research trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, exactly right, Nick. If you recall back to our breakdown of the Xbox Developer Direct trailer about 6 months ago, we were trying to pin down exactly where this medallion that Locust is wearing, where that comes from. And it looks like that medallion is going to play importance in this game, which we thought, and it looks like Indy is going to eventually get his hands on this medallion. If you can see right here, Indy is holding the medallion. The symbol that we do see initially is facing the other way, because you can see he's pressing it into that imprint on the wall that bears that exact same mark, which, Nick, you said prior, it looks almost like a Jerusalem cross, but not quite like a Jerusalem cross. But then also it was the same sort of crosshatch pattern that we ultimately saw in the catacombs, which we thought would be somewhere in Rome or the Vatican based on the architectural design inside of that catacomb. And anyways, it looks like you are going to be interacting with that medallion. It's going to play in some sort of a puzzle in this game, which we assumed, and it's nice to see that confirmation here.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Indy gets his hands on it somehow. I wonder if it is with that fight with Locust at Marshall College. We'll see clips of that exact fight throughout this trailer. And then as we continue, we get this very cool silhouette shot, very reminiscent of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull shot, my personal favorite shot from that movie. I just love the silhouette shot with the fedora. It's so damn cool when we see that. And then we return to this artifact room, Andreas, and it is very clear between this trailer and the last trailer, this is a very important artifact room.
Yeah, it is. And of course, if you want to see our breakdown of various different artifacts throughout this artifact room, I highly recommend that you go check out our breakdown of that developer direct trailer. Just a few important things to note here, just based on this new angle. You can see here in the front center of the frame, one of those guardian lions that we have seen guarding temples of Sukhothai throughout both this trailer and prior trailers, where we did see Sukhothai in that developer direct trailer and the dev walkthrough afterwards. It looks like we have yet another guardian lion, also referred to as Singa statues, which play into Sukhothai and ancient Thai archaeology. So just another cool little archaeological detail here. But Nick, that isn't the focus or focal point of this room. In fact, it's actually changed. Now it is this cat urn or cat vase here, and we've seen Egyptian artifacts throughout, and we expect Egypt to play into this game. We've seen India is going to make it to the Great Pyramids of Giza, and now we are assuming this is going to be probably an ancient Egyptian artifact because of the importance of cats in ancient Egypt. Of course, in ancient Egypt, cats were represented in social and religious scenes dating back as early as 1980 BC, and several ancient deities were depicted and sculptured with cat-like heads, and that includes Mafdet, Bastet, and Sekhmet. There's so much cultural and religious significance of ancient cats in ancient Egypt, so if I had to bet, Nick, I'm guessing this is an ancient Egyptian artifact that Indy's holding here.
Yeah, I think that is a good guess. And like you said, cats were so important in ancient Egypt. In fact, people believed that cats were magical creatures who could bring them good luck. Like, these were very important animals within their culture. And like you said, I do believe it is an ancient Egyptian artifact because I think it's very clear from this trailer and the past trailer that Egypt is going to play a massive role in this game. We get so many shots of Egypt and Egyptian artifacts, and then here we have this next shot that is proving that this artifact is clearly important because we see Indy holding it, and it looks like he's holding something important. You can see it on his face. He's handling it with care and with awe, and then this very next shot in the same exact room, now we see Nazis, fascist police of Italy, we see some sort of religious figure there, and we see the main antagonist of this game, Emmerich Voss, all looking towards this exact same cat vase. So clearly, this artifact, which we believe to be ancient Egyptian, is going to be very important in the events of this game. And like I was saying, how important Egypt is going to be in this game, I don't think it is a coincidence that the very next shot we see in this trailer is of Locust, of course, after he has broken in to Marshall College, and it looks like he is almost worshiping these ancient Egyptian artifacts. And of course, it just so happens to be an ancient Egyptian exhibit at Marshall College. Like, they just keep throwing Egypt at us, Andreas, for me to not think that this is going to be really important in the story of this game.
Yeah, and speaking of Locust here, it looks like you are going to face off toe-to-toe against him in Marshall College, and the thing that's really important for me here is that this is a slight confirmation that you will have playable segments in Marshall College, and of course we were saying earlier when we did see cinematic sequences in Marshall College that we really hope that we could explore around, look through the college, because it is one of those Indiana Jones landmarks, and Nick, this is maybe suggesting that that might be the case. Of course, it is possible that we can be confined just to this somewhat of like a boss fight or cinematic beat here, but in any event, it's nice to see a playable segment, and it's also interesting to see you brawling against such a towering figure in Tony Todd's Locust here. I'm sure Tony is absolutely going to kill it as Locust with this character. Really excited to see how he plays into this whole thing, but one thing's for sure, in this brawl he is wearing that medallion. I know it's a little blurry, but you can make out that he is wearing that medallion at this point in time, so you would infer that at some point between this fight and later on when we see Indiana Jones is holding the medallion, that Indy is able to recover that medallion, whether it be in this fight or shortly thereafter.
Yeah, definitely. We do know that this is going to be a very important sequence from this game. There was an Entertainment Weekly article a few months ago that talked about how this mystery man Locust will break into Marshall College and he will get away with a relic that is seemingly insignificant, but it is clearly going to be important. And then Indy will then head to the Vatican in search of answers. So it is clear that this event will trigger the later events of this game and Indy ending up at the Vatican and just whatever happens afterwards. And then these next few shots, we get a shot here of the catacombs. I wonder if this is the Vatican necropolis, but this is clearly in some sort of catacombs. You can just tell by the architecture and the thing right there on the wall, like the shelving, like this is clearly a catacomb thing. Andreas, you noticed in this shot that the camera is actually significantly more detailed than what the camera looked like in the previous trailer, and we will actually notice a few instances throughout this trailer of some graphical changes already to this game just over the course of the last few months since this brand new trailer. And then we just get kind of a sizzle reel of gameplay here. We see him exploring with a torch, classic Indiana Jones adventure. It's going to be really fun. We get this shot of Sukhothai. We've seen this before with Gina and Indy and Sukhothai. There was a lot of brand new shots, just like this very next one, where we see Locust actually confronting Indy and Gina in this artifact room. And I'm really interested, Andreas, as to the flow of events in this room, because we know that Indy and Gina will be in this room by themselves. We know that Emmerich Voss and his goons will be in this game, or in this room at some point. And then now we know Locust will confront Indy in this room. Like, clearly some shit's gonna go down in this room, and I'm just interested to see how that happens.
Yeah, I mean, clearly this artifact room seems to be somewhat of an inflection point for this game. I mean, so many important players do end up in this room. So yeah, definitely excited to see how that all unfolds. And here we get a great look at Emmerich Voss and what appears to be his right-hand man, which in that cinematic sequence that we did see today, we got a somewhat of a first look of his right-hand man and how his mannerisms are and how his personality is. He seems to have this devotion to the fatherland, which he talks about, how he overcame his fear of heights for the devotion of the fatherland. And so it's going to be very, very interesting to see how these two play off of one another. Is he going to be a foil for Emmerich Voss, and how they are going to work together against Indiana Jones? And of course, we also learned a little bit about Emmerich Voss's motivations throughout the dialogue in this trailer, where Indiana Jones says, "These artifacts have a deep connection to something in the past. Voss believes they hold a kind of power." And Nick, this reminds me of the classic Raiders of the Lost Ark storyline where, of course, the Nazis believed that the Ark of the Covenant was somewhat of a radio to God, that it could be used as a weapon, a source of great power. And we've seen this theme in Indiana Jones in the past, and it's nice to see that theme of archaeological artifacts that the Nazi party believes that they can use to advance their efforts. And Indiana Jones is, of course, urgent to stave off the Nazis' advances. So it's just, again, great use of Indiana Jones themes that we've seen time and time again, and it's back here with Emmerich Voss.
Yeah, definitely. And I think those themes are also a great reason why Machinegames was picked to be the studio that makes this game, just from their experience with the Wolfenstein franchise. Just a lot of very similar themes utilized throughout that franchise with the Nazis and all of those super weapons and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that is a great reason why they were picked to head this project. And then we just get a couple shots here. We get to see Gina and Indy together. Clearly, they're going to be spending a lot of time together throughout this game. And then, Andres, we get this, what almost seems like maybe an insignificant shot, but it is a very cool shot and does hold some significance.
Yeah, you know, at first I kind of quickly scrolled through this shot, but then I did notice that in the foreground, there's a pretty important statue here. And of course, this is a bronze statue of Saint Michael. Anytime you see an angel with a sword, there's a great chance that it is Saint Michael. And this statue is atop the Castel Sant'Angelo in Rome, Italy, on the outskirts of St. Peter's Basilica. And of course, you can see St. Peter's Basilica in the background. And as a fun fact, there is a secret passageway between the Castel Sant'Angelo, which is where the camera is situated, and St. Peter's Basilica in the background. And the Pope and his entourage used this secret passageway to go to and from these two landmarks. So one thing I'm wondering is, secret passageway, Indiana Jones, Vatican City, I'm hoping we can go between these two locations using that papal secret passageway here. That would be so awesome.
It would be very cool. I think it is very clear that they just are trying to help situate us in this game, and that the Vatican and Vatican City are going to just play a significant role in this game. And I am interested to know why Indy heads towards the Vatican in search of answers, like what relic it is that Locust steals that forces Indy to head to the Vatican. Like, it seems like there's so many different potential artifacts at play here, and we know that there will be so many important locations based off of the fact that it is a great circle, and they talk about how if you draw a perfect line between all of them, you get this great circle, which we see in this very next shot. So I'm just so intrigued to see how they're able to balance and juggle all of these different locations and these different artifacts into one cohesive story, as we see shots here of various locations we'll be visiting. And then we eventually get into this whole Himalayas section. We get to see that we will be visiting India, or at least that we get to see this classic indie map travel scene, which, Andreas, it's so cool to see stuff like this return. This is the kind of stuff that just helps prove that we are, in fact, in an Indiana Jones game. This is an Indiana Jones story. It's a small detail, but stuff like this matters.
Oh yeah, no, it's little things like this that perhaps to the casual viewer, you kind of take it for granted, but to the Indiana Jones diehard, Machine Games is hitting all the right notes here with things like this. It isn't just Indiana Jones on the cover of this game. It looks like they are Indiana Jones fans, and it's made for Indiana Jones fans. And I'm hoping, Nick, if anything, that my takeaway from this game is that it feels like a love letter to Indiana Jones, to the franchise, because it deserves that level of attention and that attention to detail. And it looks like, based on this map here, that we are getting that, which I love that so much. And I don't know, we'll see. Do we actually end up going to locations like Calcutta and Guwahati? No idea, but we do know for a fact now with this extended sequence that we will be going to the Himalayas. It was a place that we were expecting to be able to go based on the initial coverage from this game, the articles that released alongside that initial trailer that we did receive that showed us the gameplay for the first time. And this sequence, of course, does live up to the hype in giving us that Himalayan adventure fantasy. You're met smack dab in the face with a battleship in the Himalayas. Nick, how the hell is a German battleship going to end up in the Himalayas? No clue, but I can't wait to find out.
Yeah, honestly, that is my biggest question, the biggest thing I want to talk about. Other than when it comes to this sequence, it is that classic Indiana Jones just vibe. Everything about this scene screams the original 3 films, and I think they included this to kind of show people the attitude that they were going for, and that perhaps, just prove that they understand when it comes to an indie story, those beats that they have to hit. It has the humor. It has the how the hell is Indy going to get out of this situation again type thing. Just classic Indiana Jones. I really do love this sequence. But yeah, I'm just wondering, how the hell is there a German battleship frozen in the middle of the Himalayas? Like I was saying, they have so much stuff they have to balance and bring together for a cohesive story, and how a frozen battleship ended up in the middle of the mountains is one of those things that I cannot wait to see what the answer is, because it is clear that there are some supernatural elements at play here.
Yeah, and my greatest takeaway from this particular sequence, of course, I think it is important to note how long this cinematic is. I do think, at least my takeaway here, is that this game will have an importance on the storytelling and the cinematic aspect of Indiana Jones. I think this is setting that tone, that this is going to be that cinematic experience, and this will almost feel like a movie, or it should make you feel like you are going to the theaters and watching an Indiana Jones movie as you are playing the game. And you know what, Nick? I, for one, am all on board for that, so long as in between these cinematic experiences, there are going to be things that we can chew on, like puzzles that we can think about that are maybe a bit tough to solve. I think that's where this game is going to set itself apart from prior cinematic explorational games such as Uncharted and such as Tomb Raider. I think that's where Indiana Jones can shine. Of course, Indiana Jones is an archaeologist. I want to see that puzzle aspect with the archaeology and him using all of his different archaeological tools to figure out different sequences in this game. I think that's how they're going to set themselves apart. But nice to see that the cinematic aspect of things is going to be there as well, with the humor and all those things that you expect out of an Indiana Jones experience that you were talking about.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point about the length of the cinematic, and it does make me wonder what the balance of gameplay and cinematics will be in this game, because this does look like a movie. It just looks like an animated movie. And then that also makes me wonder if there is a ton of gameplay sequences and we have these long cinematics like this, like if this is the standard and it will be like this across the entire game, and assuming we don't get shorted on the gameplay side of things, like that is standard length, I do wonder how long this game will end up being, because it could be pretty damn long. They have a lot of stuff they have to juggle. If we have cinematics this long and extended gameplay sequences, we could be looking at a pretty lengthy game, which I would not be opposed to because we've never really gotten a high-quality AAA caliber Indiana Jones games. There's been a couple attempts at it, but we've never gotten anything like this. So if they want to make it a very long game, like 30 hours, I am totally here for this. But I am interested to see if this is the standard for cinematics in this game or if this is just an example of what a longer cinematic will look like.
And as that cinematic wraps up, we just get a few more shots here as we close out this trailer. Nick, this is a great money shot of Harrison Ford in this game. How great does this shot look? Like, I just was looking at this shot for a long while thinking, like, where we're at in terms of video games. And like, this is just such a great look at what we're able to accomplish in this day and age. Like, just the details on not just his face, but like the fedora and the leather jacket. Like, it just looks really great to me.
I love this shot. It is my favorite shot from this trailer because it is a fantastic thumbnail asset. And so I love shots like this in trailers. I hope games continue to do this. And honestly, I would like to see Star Wars Outlaws have more shots like this because I could use some more thumbnail assets. So absolutely love the shot. But as this trailer continues, we get a little sizzle reel of what we can expect for some of that combat gameplay. In this game, we get to see some more of the locations, such as Sukhothai, and all of that kind of stuff. And honestly, my favorite shot from this little sizzle reel we get is this shot that comes up following this of Egypt. And I just love this shot. Like, the environment, you have that, like, conveyor belt going up. Like, this just looks like Raiders of the Lost Ark. You got the pyramids in the background. I love this shot for some reason. It's so cool looking.
Yeah, this shot made me think of what the gameplay loop is going to be like in this game. Like, are we going to be going like cinematic to cinematic, and then between those cinematics, is it going to be super linear? Is there agency and choice between these gameplay elements? Because this looks like a segment of the game where maybe you're opened up to like a larger area, and then you can kind of figure out, like, do you want to go through that tent to your left, or do you want to go through the tent to your right, or do you want to go straight up the middle towards that conveyor belt? Like, it looks like there are different choices here. It almost looks like a Hitman map, if there's, I don't know if that's a weird comparison to make, but in any event, this makes me just think about what that gameplay loop is going to be like with this game, and how open the areas are going to be, or how linear things are going to be.
And it does look like there might be a train way off in the background if you look in front of the pyramid, and I just wonder if we can go for that train and get on the train, if there will be another Nazi train sequence like Dial of Destiny. Indy loves tracking down Nazi trains, apparently, and that might be the case here. And then as we continue, we get to see some whip gameplay. We get to see it here on Egypt. We get to see it here on Sukhothai. It's interesting, I gotta say. I think the whip gameplay is very fascinating, especially in a first-person type game. And then we get to see some of the hand-to-hand combat. You know, at the beginning, I didn't know how I felt when it came to this game being first person. I'm warming up to it because I get what they're going for. They want to make you feel like you are Indiana Jones himself, and I think it will work great with this hand-to-hand combat, but I do wish there was a little more sequences when it comes to third person, and I know there will be in this game, but I do wonder if there will be perhaps an update down the road once this game is released where they will be able to toggle, or you will be able to toggle a third person mode for this game. Just something to keep an eye on as this game goes along.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if Machine Games is going to walk that decision. I feel like it almost feels like that is a very intentional decision that they're making. Like, of course, I think they came out explicitly saying they want you to feel like you are in the shoes of Indiana Jones. So I feel like this is just the experience that we are being given, and I'm along for the ride and open to what they are shipping, and then we'll reserve judgment until after we've had a chance to get our hands on this game. Nick, this is a really cool shot because it's shown some of that evolution in just the last 6 months with this game. Of course, if you see this side by side between this same exact shot in the last time that we've seen this shot about 6 months ago and now, I think it looks so much better, and I thought it looked good before, but now just seeing how they've updated this facial shot of Harrison Ford, like, how good does that look now? I just think it's getting better and better, and cannot wait to see what this product looks like by the time it releases by the end of 2024.
Yeah, it's really cool to see stuff like this just because it's cool to see how games evolve over just the course of just a few months. It's only been 6 months and look how different it looks. It's just cool to see stuff like this. Like, you know, whatever you see in a trailer will be completely different. And one thing I love doing when it comes to games is like when you come across a scene that you've seen from a trailer is just doing a little mental comparison of how it's differed, what they've changed, why they've changed certain things, and just kind of seeing the evolution of these games and the art that these developers are doing. And then as this shot continues, we get to go back to just a little sizzle reel of combat. Here we are in fascist Italy. You can tell by the flag there on the right. And then we get this really awesome shot of Indy beating the hell out of this dude with a banjo. I did not exactly have that on my bingo board today, Andreas, but here we are beating someone up with a banjo.
Yeah, and one thing that I am seeing from this shot is it does look like Indy kind of misses him with the banjo, but then the impact is still there. I don't know if that's something that needs to be cleaned up, or if that's just like, he's in the general zone of combat, and so they're being a little loosey-goosey with it since it's a single-player game, but just interesting. I'm interested to see how the melee combat evolves as we get toward release, but yeah, I mean, just the use of a banjo here, I think that's just playing up that comedy that we should expect with Indiana Jones. Like, I want to know what this sounds like. That's what I want to know. Like, is it gonna? It's gotta sound like you're breaking a banjo over somebody's head, right?
Like the breaking strings. Yeah, like honestly, It could be funny. And honestly, to speak to your little gameplay thing, if it's not meant to be played at slow motion like this, like I just want people to understand it's not meant to do a frame by frame analysis. You hear that all the time because if you play it at full speed, you literally cannot tell that he misses. So I just wonder if it's just one of those like don't pull back the curtains too much kind of things. But I am interested to see how animations are cleaned up because obviously that will be what they are doing up into the release of this game. Now, of course, we don't have an official release date, but all of the rumors are saying that we should have this game by the end of this year, holidays, November, December, somewhere in there. And then we get to see some of the gun gameplay for this game, and it looks like he has this weird vignette effect around him when he is either crouched or, Andreas, you theorize it could be perhaps him being suppressed. We see this in games such as Hell Let Loose when you're being shot at. But what we do know is as soon as he stands up, it does go away. So it could be something to do with the crouch. It could be something to do with him getting shot at because he's also getting shot at the same time. But then we get to see what some of the revolver gameplay will look like. I'm interested to see if there will be a HUD or not because it does look kind of weird without the HUD, but I have to imagine that is intentional just because of a cinematic trailer and there will be some sort of HUD, but it does look kind of weird without it.
Yeah, and I, for one, just from a point of view of usability here, I don't know how you would possibly aim it just from the angle that he's holding. Like sometimes without a HUD, you'll hold up the revolver so you can see down the irons. And here he's just kind of holding it out there. So I do think we have to imagine there's either going to be some sort of an iron sight or some sort of a HUD so that you can see where you're shooting. Again, I'm not anticipating gunplay to be the forefront of combat in this game. I think it is more centered around the whip and the melee and stealth. I don't think this is a run and gun type Indiana Jones game, but I do hope that there is some level of usability there. And Nick, great questions being asked. I can't wait to see gameplay with the HUD or with whatever solution they end up with at the end of this. And then moving on to this next shot here, we do see Locust yet again here facing off against Indy. Looks like he's headbutting him square in the nose. And Nick, I think at the end here, this is like the shot that a lot of people are talking about. So I definitely want to touch on this after this title shot. This is the shot-for-shot recreation of the temple idol scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Nick, how the hell do you think this is going to play into this game? Of course, this game is not a Raiders of the Lost Ark game. It is an original story taking place between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. Is this some sort of a tutorial sequence or a flashback, or how do you see this playing into this game?
I don't know. That's a great question. I was not expecting to see that today, but it looks great. It is an exact shot-for-shot remake. In fact, there are sequences where I thought it was footage from the movie itself. It looks that good, and I cannot wait to see how this is worked into the game. Perhaps we know that Indy's like sleeping at the beginning in Marshall College. At least we know that Marshall College sequence is rather early in the game. Perhaps he's dreaming, and like you said, it's a little tutorial segment, and it teaches you how to play this game because there are a lot of mechanics that could be taught throughout that scene. We know he, swings on the whip and uses the whip in this sequence, and this perhaps the sneaking gameplay mechanic. Like, there's a lot of potential here. I'm so excited to see how they work this in. And as the game progresses, I just wonder if, like, near the end, perhaps we get a little setup for The Last Crusade. I don't know. There's a lot of potential here now that they've kind of opened Pandora's box as to we will see some legacy indie content in this game. And that's really cool.
Yeah, I was really excited when we found out that we would be getting an original story because, of course, I want more Indiana Jones experiences beyond the films that we already have. As much as I do love those, if I want to experience those stories, I'll go back and watch those movies. But Nick, I love that we are at a minimum acknowledging those works because I think it's important to contextualize this story since it's in a new medium to make it feel like it is part of the movies because I think it's going to be important to streamline all Indiana Jones IP. And how streamlined can you be other than a one-to-one shot of this sequence? Honestly, I couldn't tell that this was the video game until he looks up and then you can kind of see the facial model is a video game. Before that, just the environmental effects, the attention to detail, it looked like we were watching Raiders of the Lost Ark for a second. And I just cannot overstate how cool that is. And then the other thing that I very quickly want to mention, because of course we didn't hear this trailer as we were breaking it down, Nick, Gordy Hobb is killing it yet again throughout this trailer. He is really filling this game with great music. It is such a comp to John Williams, and he really nails that feel of a John Williams score. Of course, he did such a great job with the Jedi franchise. Most recently in Jedi Survivor, we sang his praises and gave him his flowers for that game, and I think he's going to deserve it yet again with this one. He's nailing that vibe of an Indiana Jones score.
Yeah, definitely. He's killing it. He is the future of the Lucasfilm IP when it comes to score, and I agree. It's really cool to see this game contextualized within the films. It's really important for them to be like, yeah, this is a continuation of those original films. So stuff like this is really cool. Guys, that will close out the trailer. Definitely let us know your thoughts down below on this game, on this trailer. Are you excited to pick this up? This game is kind of flying under the radar, but you definitely know we are huge Indiana Jones fans, so we will be here covering anything that we can get for this franchise. We cannot wait for this game. Unfortunately, we did not, like we said, get an official release date, but it will be coming hopefully within the next few months. It has to come within the next 6 months if they stick to that 2024 release date. So we are getting pretty close, and of course we will have Outlaws to tie us over until then. But we are getting a AAA indie and Star Wars game this year, guys, and that is pretty damn cool for us Lucasfilm fans. So definitely let us know all of your thoughts down below in the comments, and be sure to join our Discord server and follow us over on Twitter at Lunar Squadron. We would love to see you guys over there. Anyway, that is going to do it for us for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.